What's going on, everybody? Welcome back, and I appreciate you guys stopping on by. If you could just like, subscribe. Today we're going to be talking about the first week of Python at Lambda School, so if you want to hear about that, then just stay tuned.
Maybe I don't understand it. You're changing, I can't stand it. My heart can't take this damage. In the way I feel, can't stand it.
Alright, so welcome back, everybody. And again, before I start, I do have some links down below if you want to click on them. If by any chance I decided to change your mind as to whether or not to go to Lambda School, I do have a link down below that you can click on and you'll get $250 once you complete the program. It'll help me out, help the channel out. I also have a GoFundMe page down there to kind of help me out while I'm going to school. Nobody's put into it yet, but I still hold on to it just in case. So no pressure on it, whether you do or not. I'm still gonna try to keep putting out this stuff just because it helps me gather my thoughts, and I think it also helps a lot of people kind of figure out what the experience is like doing the Lambda School stuff. And so I want to keep that going. Hopefully it's helping out some people. But without further ado, so this week we covered Python, and I was very excited, still excited about it, but at the same time very challenged by it. There's a lot of people who are kind of just easing through it and having fun, and I'm kind of struggling to get a lot of my thoughts together about it. We covered things like tuples, we covered lists, which are like arrays in JavaScript and other languages. We covered objects, we covered classes, we covered string methods and how they differ from JavaScript. So Python actually has a lot of very useful methods in there. Some of them that are just like so simple that you're sitting here like, why doesn't JavaScript have these? Such as ways to be able to pull out certain strings and stuff like that without, or certain characters within a string, I should say, without having to go like above and beyond with like an entire algorithm just to be able to do it. Also, the for loop in Python is just so much more simpler, and it just makes so much more sense that it's just easier. And so we also covered comprehension, which is kind of like a way to put a bunch of stuff that you would normally put into a big line, like you would put it into just one line. It can be a little complex, but at the same time, like it's really beautiful to look at, just because like personally, I don't like a whole bunch of lines of code. And so if you can shove everything into one easy to read line, to me that's more efficient. This week, we pretty much covered all of that, like all of the basics. We built a text-based game, so if you're into that and you ever wanted to build one using a computer language other than JavaScript, I guess, this is your chance. So it was pretty fun, you know, for a bit. I got hung up on a lot of things. What the text-based adventure game was like is you start off in the middle of nowhere and you have a little bit of text that comes up on your terminal and tells you your person is here. And then you basically, as the programmer, have to make it so that when a user types a direction or something, if they can go there, then they'll go to the next room. If they can't go there, then you have to cover that edge case and tell them, hey, you can't go there, there's nothing there. And if they type something like ASDF or whatever and just face roll on their keyboard, then give them something like, you know, I don't understand that command, which is just a bunch of if statements. For the most part, that's all it really is. It's a bunch of if statements, and we're using classes in order to do all of that. So just a way to kind of get yourself used to the differences between the classes in Python versus the classes in JavaScript. And so you're kind of working more in a object-oriented way than you would in JavaScript. So for us, like a lot of people had problems wrapping their mind around that different mentality. For me, it was a lot more confusing because this was the first time that we started working with files that were being imported from different locations. So a lot of us had issues understanding why we're working off of this one file that only has like functions and all this other stuff, instead of the files that have like the actual classes and all that. So kind of trying to get away from the React mentality while still trying to put things together with what React looks like. And you know, for me, inside the classes, like I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, so that's state right there. That's what that would be. I got a list on that class. That would be my state. Anytime that I want to put something like an item or something in that list, you know, that's like me saying this dot set state or something. And then everything else is the attributes, which is kind of like you just binding stuff. So really different way to think about stuff, but for me it helped to try to get towards something that's more familiar. and then say that this is what it looks like, you know, and also some of the syntax differences. I had an issue for about 2 hours where it was telling me that my method wasn't an attribute of this class. And so for about 2 hours, I'm sitting here like, why? You know, like it should be, because, you know, a similar method on a different class works the same. And then I realized I was indented too much. Python is a lot more strict about its indentation. It takes white space very seriously. If you indent something, you can't use tab and space. You have to use one or the other. Otherwise it'll yell at you and you won't know why. And so in this case, their error system in Python, to me, like, I don't know if you guys have used it and you think that they're awesome, that's amazing. For me, I think it's complete garbage. It doesn't really tell you exactly what's wrong. It'll tell you more or less what line. However, the line that it was telling me about wasn't really related to the issue at all. I think it's more so that the stack trace from React kind of ruined a lot of people. Like, they spoil us with all the error messages. And so, yeah, getting used to that, it was a little bit overwhelming for me. Other people had fun. They built some really awesome adventure games. One guy added a space animation like to his game, and so like he had stars and stuff floating all over his terminal. It was pretty awesome. Another person built an animation where every time that you switch rooms, you have footsteps and stuff, like a little animation of footsteps, and the intro was pretty sweet. He had kind of like a weird fading effect on his letters and all that. And the instructor Beej had some awesome input on what they could do, like, you know, things that they could think about while they're doing that. How could you make this animation more efficient so that it's not this ginormous file, mostly with just data. And then they spent about an hour or so going over cool things that you could do with your project. You know, once you're done with it, like, can you do to it, things like that. The lectures weren't exactly lectures in my opinion. They were more so just kind of like talks. Like, hey, do you have any questions? Not, we're just gonna talk about random stuff. And so it was a lot different. Like, basically there's not much like hand holding on this side of thing. It's kind of like, you already know programming, so let's stop joking around and just apply what you've learned from other sections and apply what you learned to this brand new language. There's a lot of Googling going around, a lot of just looking stuff up. Some of the stuff you look up, you'll probably notice after a while becomes, you know, the same stuff you've already looked up before, so it's more familiar. That's pretty much what they want you to do, I think. So very different. They don't walk you through anything. You're meant to figure out a lot of things on your own. So you might come out of the lecture unhappy. You know, if you're somebody like me who's struggling, you might come out of the lecture a little bit unhappy. However, you know, you can get through it just by looking a lot of stuff up. And I think that that's the point of it, being able to learn a new language basically on your own. Like, these are the things that I need you to get done, but I need you to figure out how to get them done. And so that's one way to learn a language. You get tossed into the fire. So today we're having our sprint challenge, and then next week we're gonna be going over algorithms for the entire week. So I'm kind of trying to pre-study a lot of that through the training kit as much as possible. Wish me luck with that. So with that said, thanks you guys for stopping by, and I will see you all next time.
They know the bait was suicide. Too deep when I ride. Ruby getting out for the pills that I supply. The screws are bound, flat tires, and an 06 Chevy. Looking like I'm